All right, so let's talk about Trump. A lot has happened in the last couple of days. I don't know about you, but my feed and a lot of the things that YouTube is throwing up for me, it's sort of wall to wall Trump.
I've been getting a lot of that. Yeah.
Because he's done a lot. He has hit the ground running, so that is a positive thing. First time round in 2016, he really didn't hit the ground running. And now that's not really much of a criticism, because he'd never been in government before, let alone head of government. So you can't really blame him for that, really. We hoped for more, but this time round the concern
he
was
did also have the entire government against him.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. It was a very different political situation in 2016. Nonetheless, it was a slow start then. The worry this time was that something like that might happen again. It might be just thwarted by the establishment, by the powers that be, the deep state, whatever you want to call it. Or that he wouldn't even now still have quite the calculation or the political nous to hit the ground running. Well, it looks like, thankfully, no, it is the case that he absolutely has. That he knows what he's doing now. He can actually play the game properly, correctly. And so there's one thing, isn't it, to know what to do, and there's another thing to have the actual balls to do it. And he's got both. It looks like both. Even Dr. Parvini did a video the other day, I don't know if you saw it, saying reasons to be cautiously optimistic.
The cautious
about
optimism.
Yeah.
The one that
that's where I am, to be
most
fair,
in agreement with was the hopes that it acts as a sort of contagion that comes over here.
Yeah, it'd be nice
as well. If our politicians would like to also think about doing things that would improve the country somewhat, maybe just a little bit, that'd be nice instead of just keeping us down this spiral.
Because your first 100 days in government are important. It sounds like a bit of a cliche or a bit of an empty thing to say. Like, is it? But it is, because it's all about momentum. And actually, 4 years isn't that long, because you've got the midterms after 2 years, so things are possibly sort of reset, or the pieces on the board may well be reshuffled after just 2 years. And even after 1 year, or perhaps even less, people are starting to look ahead towards those midterms. So in other words, hitting the ground running, or getting your momentum rolling as much and as soon as possible really is important.
I will also just on a structural level.
Yeah,
I kind of hate how the American Republic works with the bi-yearly elections for the Congress and the midterms and the thing as well, because all it means, and this is a criticism that I think Hopper and de Maistre and other people have made about this kind of democratic system as well, all it means is that most of the time politicians are concerned about the next election rather than governing the country properly. Obviously, in a second term, like he's doing, which will be his last term, no matter what, Donald Trump has a bit more focus on being able to just get stuff done. Yeah. But still, it's just it just means that the whole point of the politician's career is to maintain his electability rather than do what needs to be done. Right. So that's just a complaint of mine. Just not necessarily related to anything else. I just wanted to get it out there.
Yeah, no, fair enough. A couple of points there. Certainly as congressmen or senators, but particularly congressmen, you're sort of constantly campaigning. Constantly. Like, as soon as you've won your election, within a few months, you've sort of got to start thinking about at least the funding side of your re-election. Yeah, but I suppose that is sort of hard-baked into any democracy, though.
Sadly.
I mean, obviously now we live in accelerated times. So the way I just described it, where you're sort of almost constantly campaigning, it didn't used to be the case decades ago, or 100 years ago, it wouldn't necessarily be the case. But now it is. And yeah, it's unfortunate. It's hard-baked into it, because I suppose the way you might deal with something like that is to make terms longer. But then would that really fix it? And that's not really what people want anyway. So it is a difficult thing to combat. Yeah. But there is. And the other thing you mentioned there, just about Trump now in his second term, he can never run again.
So this is when he gets stuff done.
And this is,
that was certainly how Obama treated it. Second term, first term, pretend to still be a moderate. Second term, okay, I'm an insane communist.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a point I made on the inauguration live stream we did, which was behind the paywall, I believe. So, a lot of people might have not seen me make this point. And it's not an original point, but the idea that all presidents in their second term are sort of off the leash. They're unchained to some degree because it is the end of their political career. It's the last time they're going to be sort of at the pinnacle of power. So they quite often play fast and loose with policy, and even with like their own.
See what you can get away with.
Right? Yeah. There's increasingly less to lose. Or rather, put it another way: first-term presidents, just like any congressman or senator, do have to think about their re-election. Well, that's just off the table now. So.
Hence why he's able to hit the ground running as well.
Yeah,
there's definitely a factor in it.
I'm cautiously optimistic because he does seem to be doing a lot of the things he said he would. Because that was the other thing, that he might not. It might have been bluster.
I mentioned in the last segment I was a bit surprised because when he did things like say that he would pardon all of the Jan 6 guys, and say when he was trying to get the libertarian vote as well, when he appeared at the libertarian convention last year, that he would immediately, I think he said at first, commute Ross Ulbricht's prison sentence, because the man was given 2 life sentences plus 40 years, and now he's actually just pardoned him. I was expecting those to be a bit of bluster, saying that he would do them and then let everybody down.
Yeah.
But no, he's actually kept to his promises. So if nothing else, fair play to the man for keeping those promises.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's
and then also
I'm loving it. It's great.
Obviously, the executive orders can be challenged legally when it comes to things like repealing certain legislation and trying to roll back a lot of the affirmative action. Specifically, really, the affirmative action one, because that'll likely go to the Supreme Court, and they have over 100 years of precedent to be able to try and figure out if they're going to uphold his executive order. But at least he's doing what he can.
It moves the Overton window again, doesn't it? Yeah. That it's now on the table politically, right?
It makes it conceptual possibility.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, he's done loads of things. One of the things I thought was great was to revoke the access to classified intelligence and things from those 50 senior intelligence people, retired largely, that did that open letter about Hunter Biden's laptop, that it was all a fake Russian hoax thing. He's just revoked all of their ability to see sort of classified information. And John Bolton, I kind of hate John Bolton, so that was sweet. That was nice to see. It's funny that I find it funny, John Bolton and Trump's back and forth tit for tat exchanges of insulting each other. Both guys calling each other dumb, like explicitly as well. He's a dumb guy. He's a stupid person. Both of them have said that about each other. Yeah, really. But Trump, being the prez, he's the one with the power, and he just completely revoked John Bolton's ability to.
Well, if I'm so dumb, how do you like this then?
Yeah, how do you like me now? Yeah, it's great. And Trump just said, why should Bolton or people like him, why should they have access to this thing for life? That's not in the Constitution. Why should they? Yeah, they shouldn't. John Bolton is outside the inner sanctum of power, so why should he be privy to everything the NSA or the CIA do anymore? No, go away and retire and be quiet now, John. You've done the damage you're going to do in the world. You've got your tens of thousands, hundreds of innocent people murdered or burnt alive, so well done for that. A great career to look back on. Now go away and be quiet, bitch. Fuck him. All right, let's play
I want to correct myself on something. When I mentioned 100 years of precedent for affirmative action, I meant the birthright citizenship.
I know, you did.
Yeah.
I know.
But birthright citizenship, that's going to be a big challenge. But I think it would be good if you could get that off the books, just because of the fact that, it's kind of stupid that somebody can just cross the border, give birth, and they're automatically a citizen.
Yeah. No other countries do that, I don't think.
I think that there are a few that have similar, but Britain had Just Solly, is that how you pronounce it? Right of the soil.
Oh, okay.
Until the 1980s, which is why Kemi Badenoch is a British citizen, for instance. But we got rid of it. It doesn't stop immigration or illegal immigration, but at the very least, it's a step in the right direction, right?
Again, it moves the conversation in the right direction, as far as we're concerned. Okay, so go back to that other.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just one of the things about the intelligence services. Hopefully, they're going to go a lot further. I mean, he did a 10-point. I've talked about it before. He has a whole 10-point program on exactly how he's going to break the power of various intelligence services. But it's nice to see. Again, it's just a nice start, just to immediately do that with those 50 guys and someone like John Bolton, just with a stroke of a pen. But there's loads of other things he's already done already, just 2-3 days in or whatever it is. So if we play this first clip,
the first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
Lovely. All of them done with one stroke of a pen. It's interesting. I find it hilarious, really. Very American, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. Very American to do it in front of a live audience.
Oh yeah,
a whooping audience. It's good. I love it.
It's all pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Everything political in America is just an extension of pro wrestling.
At the end of this, he threw the pen into the audience.
Of course.
Yeah, of course he did.
It's like John
I
Cena
like it. I'm here for
shirt,
it.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Or Hogan ripping his shirt and throwing that into the audience. That's all this is. That's why Hogan showed up for him. It's why the Democrats had Batista. And he was on Undertaker as well. It's all just pro wrestling, man.
Politics is theatre. Why not just be honest about it a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, right? Trump is more honest about it than all of them. He's a showman.
What you see is what you get with Trump. And you might not like him. I know lots of people out there despise him. But what you see is what you get, right? He's not a fake personality, an entirely fake mask, like Starmer, for example. Or David Cameron or Tony Blair. It's sort of this fake edifice of doing the impression of a serious politician. At least the Donald is the Donald, right?
Yeah.
When he's talking off the cuff, it's the same. It's always the same.
At least Boris Johnson was a sincere buffoon, but he was a sincere evil buffoon.
Yeah. So let's keep playing this. I do love I honestly love the fact that it's in front of some sort of live audience. You can tell how popular it is. I mean, obviously the audience will be largely, if not entirely,
Could
MAGA
you imagine
people.
Biden doing this? I don't think so. I
don't think so. This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward.
Genuinely popular. There's only going to be a small number of commies that hate this and don't want this.
People pretended to like Kamala Harris. People who were paid pretended to like Kamala Harris.
The first item that President Trump is signing is
people pretended to like Joe Biden as well, but people actually like Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. I personally think it's great. I'm a bit of an Americanophile, aren't I, being half American and stuff like that. But I think it's great in the United States. They've got, thank you, that they've got that it's enshrined.
Aren't you like
in their
half Anglo-American anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm not half Native American. Yeah. My dad was from Oregon, and he's descended from I think Dutch and English.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not actually Cherokee.
He's one of the acceptable guys. Stop your typing right now.
One of the good ones.
Okay. Yeah.
And my mum's English Welsh. So so obviously I've got a soft spot for the Americans, of course. But I think it's great. It's in their constitution, the freedom of speech. And so when and wherever that has been eroded, to walk that back, it's just obviously good. I feel like.
I mean, for what the government was trying to make, the kind of speech that the government was trying to make illegal under Biden and under Obama and under lots of them. Yeah, I don't want them deciding what you can and can't say. Just the same as I don't want this bellend deciding what I can and can't say. Just
before we move on to the Right Honourable Mr. Starmer MP, is to say just a quick few other things that he's done already. I think I saw 200 executive orders, all sorts of things, leaving the Paris Agreement, leaving the WHO, the stuff about birthright, and 200 odd other things. My only concern with it, and it's not really an immediate concern, but my only concern with it is that when a Democrat at some point gets back in, they'll do the exact same thing. They'll have one bit of paper undoing all of Trump's, sign that, and then start doing all their commie stuff. That will just become the norm. That will just be a new open wound in the Republic,
isn't it?
Sorry?
That is basically the norm at this point. To come in, sign a load of executive orders trying to destroy the previous administration's achievements, and then carry on signing executive orders to do your own thing.
But that will keep becoming more and more pronounced, and until it reaches sort of absurd heights where a new president comes in and it's like thousands of executive orders from the last guy you undo with a stroke of a pen, and then spend the next few days doing all your stuff you want to do. That will just become completely de rigueur. It'll just be a matter of course. That's damaging. That's not how the Republic, or any Republic really, is sort of really supposed to function.
I mean, that's the hope of something like the Department of Government Efficiency, is that it'll be able to pull back enough of the state that whatever the next administration can do won't be as effective.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, let's hope.
Let's hope that it doesn't live up to its name too much and just makes it so whatever the government wants to do next is going to be actually more efficiently able to do it.
Just the point is, with all of this, just to say that Trump is hitting the ground running and is doing the things he said he would do. So long may it last, and hopefully they ramp it up and it gets even more radical. Or it's not radical, is it? It's undoing radicalism.
It's sensible.
Right, yeah. Yeah, dial up the sensibleness, please.
To have a government that isn't trying to destroy the nation it's governing is sensible. Some would even say admirable and desirable.
Keep doing stuff that's in the interest of the United States and the Western world and common sense and humanity as a whole. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. So, next thing to say is just a quick note. I don't want to spend too long on this, but the nature of our special relationship. The United States and the United Kingdom are supposed to have, ever since the war, a quote-unquote special relationship. It's been a bit rocky over the decades. I think it only really existed in the mind of Churchill, but there you go. At the moment, it's certainly not...
It certainly didn't exist in the mind of Roosevelt, did it? What has he wanted to do? Bleed us dry?
Well, all during the long hot summer of 1940, the Battle of Britain, he's like, let's see where they're going with this. Let's see what happens. No, there's loads.
Let's see how much money we can get from these guys. The coffers aren't dry yet.
I mean, during the war and the beginning of the Cold War, there's a massive anti-British sentiment in America. Massive. And in a sense, strategically, you can't really blame them. We were one of the most powerful nations in the world. The British Empire still existed even at the end of the war, and that if America wanted to be sort of undisputed hegemon of the world, they would have to break the back of the British Empire. So in a sense, looking at it from their point of view, you can't blame them. But also there's lots of other examples where they sort of did everything they could to prevent us from having our own nuclear program. Didn't really help out, particularly in the Falklands.
We were nice and bankrupt by the end of the Second World War as well, anyway.
The Suez Crisis, pulled the rug out from under our feet in the Suez Crisis. There's a number of things. Nevertheless,
Bo doesn't hold any kind of grudges or anything.
Nevertheless, having said all of those things, we have been one of the closest allies of the United States in all sorts of ways over the decades since World War II. In lots and lots of ways, we have, in fact, helped each other out and backed each other up in other ways. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the United Kingdom has been one of the closest allies of the United States. If you just look at the Iraq War, for example, Blair standing shoulder to shoulder with W.
And that worked out so well.
It was a terrible thing. Yeah. It was a ridiculous, disgusting thing. But I'm just saying that did happen. That did play out like that. So anyway, what for the special relationship in 2025? Well, let's just play this thing.
Of course,
that's
I
our Prime Minister.
Donald Trump round.
Okay, turn it up.
But don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump on his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
Said through gritted teeth.
What a slime ball.
Yeah.
What a grease ball.
Because there is real politic, right? There is dealing with the situation at hand and all that sort of thing. If I was going to play any sort of interference on behalf of Starmer there. But I don't excuse it. It's funny. right? Seeing something like that is funny. Just a number of statements going back the best part of 10 years, trying to cane the Donald, and then once he's actually in the big seat, just going, "Oh, well done, sir."
It comes across very snivelling.
Of course it does. Yeah.
Because he knows he's not in a position of power here, is he?
I saw another funny thing on Twitter. It was completely AI generated, but it was funny nonetheless. Of the telephone call of Trump ringing up Starmer, and Starmer saying, "Oh, congratulations on your win, Mr. President," and Trump going, "Didn't you send hundreds of campaigners over to America to try and beat me in November?" And Starmer just going, Trump going, "Shut your mouth." Or whatever it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was funny nonetheless. You can only imagine they have met and had dinner and all sorts of things, so it's not like sort of some sort of dead relationship, like they can never work together and everything. But it is
frosty.
It will be an uncomfortable relationship. And I'm also, those Chagos Islands.
Oh yeah.
It seemed to me that all of that is a way to sort of undermine or thumb their nose at the Trump administration, because there's a massive US base on those islands. It belongs to the UK, but there's a massive US base there, and I think it's strategically important for them to sort of refuel their submarines or something or other. I don't know all the details of it, but it's important to the United States, so it's important to the Pentagon that we don't just give those islands to Mauritius, which is the idea, which is the plan. It's not just about Britain just feeling really self-conscious, just really guilty about the shadows of colonialism. No, it's about it's about army bases and the world strategic geopolitical situation and things. And it's not in America's interest for us to do it. It doesn't really matter to the UK one way or another, does it? Whether we control the Chagos Islands, it doesn't affect us particularly, other than maybe you could argue prestige or something. But the Americans are peed off about it. So I think that might have just been Starmer just trying to piss off Trump.
I don't know enough about the Chagos Islands to be able to comment.
Let's move on. What's the next link I got there? So
tracking all the executive orders.
So I just got a bunch of tabs, just looking at what's in the news cycle. The next one, the bit I actually want to talk about for the majority of this segment, but I've already used up a fair bit of my time, so I won't, is the Putin, Ukraine, Russian angle of everything. Because that's sort of, other than Israel and Gaza, it's sort of the main conflict in the world, isn't it? I suppose you could argue. And so we'd hoped, or I'd hoped, most of us at the Lotus Eaters had hoped, most fair-minded people had hoped, that Trump can bring the thing to an end. Yeah. One way or another.
I think...
Bring the killing to an end.
Yeah, this is a very controversial perspective, but I think people dying in war is bad.
Yeah, completely innocent Ukrainian civilians and more or less...
And their soldiers.
And their soldiers.
And the Russians
Russian conscripts, that's the next thing to say. And essentially just as innocent Russian conscripts or whatever. Let's stop them getting blown to bits.
Yeah,
can we?
The man on foot, on the ground, who is fighting on behalf of his government, I do not ascribe him the guilt of their governments.
Right.
I think that's a pretty reasonable position to take.
And so Trump has said that he's going to send his special envoy, a guy called Keith Kellogg, to try and end the war within 100 days. Now, I suspect, despite all the levers and various forms of leverage that the United States can bring to bear, it will still all ultimately hang on what Putin wants to do. But it does seem that there are sounds that Putin wants to bring it to an end if he can. He wants to keep the Crimea, and he wants to make sure Ukraine doesn't join NATO and various other goals that he's always had. But if he can, he would like to bring it to an end, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I'm sure he would be quite relieved to have a bit of an out, given that he has set so many red lines for Ukraine and the Western allies that have just gone straight over. So, if you do that, we've got nukes. Don't forget we've got nukes. They do it. If you do this next thing, though, we've got nukes. Never forget we've got nukes. They do the next thing. Okay, but this last thing, I swear if you do this, we've got nukes. And it goes on and on and on.
Yeah. So Trump said back in like last year, was it? Yeah, December last year. He said, Assad is gone. He has fled his country. His protector, Russia, led by Vladimir Putin.
Why 3 times?
Well, because
Because it's Donald Trump.
I think that's a reference to that during his 2016 to 2020 presidency, he was just constantly dogged by these Russian allegations. He was a stooge of Putin, or he was an actual Kremlin asset sleeper, or whatever. He said it a number of times. Russia. That the corporate mainstream media in America were just constantly throwing Russia at him. So I think there's a reference to that. The Vladimir Putin, who's not interested in protecting him any longer, Assad that was. There was no reason for Russia to be there in the first place. They lost all interest in Syria because of Ukraine, where close to 600,000 Russian soldiers lay wounded or dead in a war that should never have started and could go on forever. Russia and Iran are in a weakened state right now, one because of Ukraine and a bad economy, the other because of Israel and its fighting success. Likewise, Zelensky and Ukraine would like to make a deal to stop the madness. They have ridiculously lost 400,000 soldiers and many more civilians. There should be an immediate ceasefire and negotiations should begin. Too many lives are being so needlessly wasted, too many families destroyed, and if it keeps going, it can turn into something much bigger and far worse. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is waiting. So that's what he said in December, i.e. after he'd won the election, but before he was actually in the Oval. Right. So yesterday, he then on Truth Social then said this: I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love the Russian people and always had a very good relationship with President Putin. And this despite the radical left's Russia hoax. Hoax! Or in capitals. We must never forget that Russia helped us with the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives in the process. All of that being said...
I thought it was 27
The
million.
exact number of how many Stalin's Russia lost in World War II is massively debated. Different historians have wildly different numbers.
Well, when
60 million is the upper.
Yeah.
It's the upper number. I mean, I think it's at least 20 million. I think that's a reasonable number. Yeah. But the thing is, nobody knows. That's the real. I mean,
truth. the trouble
wasn't recorded properly.
The trouble with that side of the war, you're right. Yeah, is it wasn't recorded properly, and also the amount of borders shifting. Shifting as they turned westward, further into Western Europe, makes just the whole thing was chaos.
Yeah, who do you count and don't you count? And neither the Nazis nor the Soviets kept proper numbers, or it was impossible to keep proper numbers. Yeah. And do you count the people that Stalin purged, sort of during or soon after? Do they count in the number or not? Anyway, it was certainly millions and millions. So, but perhaps 60 million is a bit higher. Anyway.
But I just hadn't heard that figure before.
Yeah. All that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favour. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse. If we don't make a deal, and soon, I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which never would have started if I were president, over with. We can do it the easy way or the hard way, and the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost.
Pretty definitive.
Right. So, once again, Trump is doing what he said he would, i.e. bring a decent amount of pressure to bear on the Russian side of the equation to stop it.
And you can really read the businessman sort of dealings in that as well.
Carrot and stick, and
he's trying to be. I'm trying to be your friend. I'm trying to do you a favour here, Pooty Poot.
Yeah. Here's a bunch of carrots. Don't make me use the stick, right?
I'll even use the really big number for how many you lost in the Second World War.
Right. Yeah. So let's hope this works. And there's basically two schools of thought. One is that Russia, or Putin rather, has got his lines in the sand and is not prepared to sort of budge on those, being the actual causes of this thing in the first place, which is an overly aggressive NATO, an overly aggressive sort of secret intelligence services shenanigans and skullduggery going on behind the scenes to undermine Russia and Russian interests in Central Europe all over the place. Putin's probably not going to move all that far on those things, but nonetheless, at least bring the full-blown hot war in the Donbass and stuff to a close as soon as possible. Some are saying that Putin's making noises where he's just going to bite Trump's hand off, basically. Yeah, that's what he's wanted for a while now. And others saying, no, he's got these lines in the sand and he will not really budge from them. So we'll see how it plays out. The ball is now kind of fairly firmly in Putin's court on this, because Zelensky is just a puppet. Right? He's going to do what he's told, basically. We all know that. So we'll see where it goes from here. But once again, it is optimistic, I think, right? That maybe he will get it done.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're up to, you can always go over to our website and follow Dan's series, Brokenomics. This one, he's talking about his predictions for 2025, and if you want to see all the other things that we're putting out, you can always follow us on Twitter. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.